Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to look at how you can start having a more conscious relationship with your thoughts by intentionally observing them. We are going to do it using ideas from the Fourth Way system, a school of conscious self-development that emphasizes presence and self-observation. To begin observing your thoughts, it's necessary to first understand that what we commonly call thinking is not what this teaching means by conscious thought. Most people imagine there is will behind their thoughts, but what they experience is more accurately described as a mechanical stream of involuntary movements inside the mind. You can notice how thoughts work differently from our normal presuppositions by simply observing them. What you will see is that this stream runs without direction, will, or awareness. It begins on its own, follows patterns shaped by habits, conditioning, and influences, and often ends without ever having been noticed, while at the same time still affecting behavior, speech, and decisions. The Fourth Way teaches that this is not real thinking, and that to observe thought, one must step outside this stream, even momentarily, and see it from another position. You can also understand, by simply observing yourself and reflecting on your past experiences, just how much of this unconscious chatter runs most people's lives, since most people don't question what this voice inside that never stops talking is saying, even if they, when they think about it, have no really good reason to trust that voice over any other voice outside of themselves. The first key is to understand that human beings live in a state the Fourth Way system calls waking sleep. While our eyes may be open and we respond to the world, we are not truly awake. We are identified with the thoughts that pass through us. We believe we are the thinker, but we are not. In the terminology of the Fourth Way, we are a multiplicity, not a unity. There is no single I that governs all our thoughts and actions. Instead, there are many different small I's that take turns appearing, speaking, reacting. They each come with their own views, moods, memories, and desires. When one of these I's appears, we believe it is our true self. Moments later, another I appears, contradicting the last one, and we do not even notice the change. To observe your thoughts is to begin to study this inner multiplicity. This work begins not with analysis, but with attention. You do not try to interpret the thoughts, you simply notice them. This noticing is called self-observation. It must be done without judgment, without trying to change what you see. The aim is not to stop thinking, nor to force your thoughts in another direction. The aim is to see the process of thought as it actually occurs. When you begin self-observation, it can be disorienting. You may find that you cannot remember to do it, or that when you do remember, the moment quickly slips away. This is normal. Observation, in this sense, is not a natural state. It requires effort. But it is a special kind of effort, an internal effort, not based on tension or strain, but on stillness and clarity. One tries to be present to what is happening inside. If a thought appears, notice the thought. If another follows, notice the connection. If your attention wanders, notice that too. This noticing, without judgment or identification, is the beginning of a new kind of consciousness. By simply bringing back your attention toward what is going on in the present moment as you notice it drifting, you create changes in your brain. What you, in essence, are doing is training yourself to have a radically different relationship with yourself and your present moment experiences, which, over time, will help you not get so distracted by whatever seems to call for your attention. Now, observing your thoughts is not introspection, as commonly understood. The Fourth Way approach avoids analyzing content. What matters at this point is not what the thoughts are about, but the fact that they happen automatically, without your participation. To observe them is to place yourself in a different relation to them. You are not trying to change their direction. You are trying to see that they happen, and to see how you are swept along by them without awareness. That is the first shock. Soon, another realization follows. Not only do thoughts arise mechanically, they are tied to emotions, tensions in the body, and to what the fourth way calls identification. Identification means you are lost in the content. If you are angry, you are entirely within the anger. If you are worrying, you are inside the worry, unable to step back. Observing a thought means noticing how it connects to identification. Are you caught in the story the thought tells? Or can you see the thought from a small distance? Even this slight distance changes everything. Another interesting thing to observe here is that even though we become identified with the thoughts and allow them to govern our decisions, we are usually not as aware of their actual content as we think. It is not uncommon to be entirely caught up in a thought stream, allowing it to pull us in all kinds of directions while not having a clue what the thoughts really are saying. The fourth way teaches that in order to truly observe thought, you must work on developing a new kind of attention. As touched upon, normal attention is scattered and reactive. It follows what attracts it: noise, emotion, memory, fear. Conscious attention is directed. It is not pulled by the content of thoughts, but instead rests in the act of observing them. This directed attention can be cultivated, but it is fragile at first. It fades quickly and must be re-established many times throughout the day. One of the practical tools the fourth way offers is to divide the functions of the mind into centers. There is an intellectual center, which processes thought, an emotional center, which processes feeling, and a moving or instinctive center, which governs habits and sensations. Observing thoughts includes seeing which center they arise from, and how centers often work in disharmony. You may have a thought that something is wrong, an emotion of fear, and a tension in the body, all arising together. Observing means seeing this whole complex as a phenomenon, not judging it, not resisting it, but noticing how it plays out. Another important point in observing thought is to understand the role of imagination. The type of imagination we are talking about here is not creative vision, but the mechanical flow of pictures and associations that distort our perception of reality and give us a false sense of, on the one hand, control or importance, and on the other hand, inferiority and helplessness. Much of what passes for thinking is imagination. When you start observing thoughts, you may be shocked by how much of your day is spent imagining conversations, defending yourself against imagined attacks, or indulging in fantasies of success or revenge. To observe imagination is to begin to free yourself from its influence. As this work deepens, you may become aware of the inner talking that runs through much of your day. This inner talking is not real thought. It is mechanical, repetitive, and mostly unconscious. It is often defensive or self-justifying, a running commentary that seeks to preserve a certain image of yourself. Observing this inner talk means beginning to hear it from outside, to realize it is happening, and that it has a momentum of its own. Once again, you are not trying to stop it. You are learning to see it for what it is. When you see it, even for a moment, something shifts. A new position in yourself opens up, a space of witnessing. This is important to understand. To put it bluntly, much of most people's inner monologue consists of this kind of useless talk. When you, for example, imagine an argument that you had with someone, or fantasize about how others might see you, you are engaged in completely useless thinking that actually damages your ability to see yourself as you truly are. And all of it is happening automatically. There is no you behind this process at all. It just gives off the illusion of being you. Over time, you may notice something more subtle. The very process of observing thoughts changes the quality of thought. When observed, mechanical thoughts tend to lose their power. They cannot grip you in the same way. You may still have them, but they no longer carry you away. The more you observe, the more this space between you and the thought becomes stable. Eventually, a different kind of thought may begin to appear. Thought that is not reactive, not automatic, but connected to will. In the language of the fourth way, this is thought from higher centers. It is not produced by the machine of personality. It appears when the machine is quiet and attention is collected. This brings us to another major idea of the fourth way: the need for a stable inner observer. At first, the one who observes is not always the same. Different small eyes try to observe, and often one eye observes another. But with time and effort, and through repeated observation, a different part of you begins to form. In the fourth way, this is sometimes referred to as deputy steward. If this sounds difficult to grasp, it is understandable, and it is not something that you have to remember or grasp fully. The formation of deputy steward is made possible by the continued act of observing, not just thoughts, but the entire flow of inner life. Therefore, the most important part of this is to simply develop a more conscious relationship with your inner life and your present moment experiences, as opposed to life just happening to you while you're lost in automatic thinking. This is also something that will enhance your quality of life greatly, as the richness of the present moment is often lost to us because we are trapped in automatic thinking. In practice, observing thoughts often begins with short moments. You catch yourself in a train of thought, you stop, you look. You notice the momentum, the tone, the connection to emotion. You return again and again to this act. Gradually, it becomes a habit of attention. The observer becomes stronger. Thought begins to be seen as something that passes through, not as the whole of what you are. This is the beginning of liberation. The fourth way insists that this practice must be sustained with sincerity and without self-deception. It warns against believing you are observing when you are actually just reflecting or analyzing. True observation is wordless, immediate. It does not involve commentary. It is more like seeing than thinking. And it cannot be faked. If you fall into imagination or identification, that too must be observed. Even the failure to observe can be observed. In this way, you always begin again, always return to the simple fact of what is happening now. In summary, the fourth way teaches that most of our thoughts happen mechanically, without conscious will or awareness. What we usually call thinking is often just automatic inner chatter, shaped by habits, emotions, and identification. By observing these thoughts without judgment, we begin to develop a new kind of attention, one that is stable, present, and aware. This practice, called self-observation, reveals that we are not one unified self, but a collection of many shifting eyes, and that our inner talk is largely unconscious and often useless. As we continue to observe, we create distance from these thought patterns. This weakens their grip and opens space for real thought to emerge. Thought that comes from presence and will rather than from reaction. Over time, a more consistent inner observer can begin to form, allowing us to experience life with more clarity, freedom, and authenticity. Finally, to observe your thoughts in the way taught by the fourth way is not merely a psychological exercise. It is the beginning of awakening. You are not trying to become better adjusted, more positive, or more successful. You are trying to see what you are. The fourth way says that without this observation, no real change is possible. All change remains on the surface, rearranging the parts of the machine. But when observation becomes steady and self-remembering deepens, something else begins to grow. A new kind of being, rooted in presence rather than personality. This is the real meaning of observing thought in the fourth way system. It is not just noticing what you think. It is stepping outside the stream, moment by moment, and learning to live from the quiet place that watches. In that stillness, something stable, real, and essential may begin to appear. Not through effort alone, but through the right kind of effort, sustained attention, sincere questioning, and a willingness to see yourself as you are. Remember that this is about building a more conscious relationship with your inner life. This is more crucial now than ever, when the world is so full of distractions that pull our attention into them. Again, most people identify with their thoughts and allow them to pull them in different directions without either really being aware of how they work or what they are really saying. By simply shedding light on these processes, you begin to change them. If you want to learn more about how thoughts work and how to practice self-observation within the Fourth Way system, there are links to them on the end screen right now. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.